So what is the ego? Yeah. Firstly, the ego is a part of you. It is not all of you. Yeah. And the ego is referred to as lots of different things in, psychotherapy, psychology, that kind of thing. I do have a psychology degree, but for me, the ego is, in spiritual terms, the part of you that believes it's separate from source. Yeah. It is disconnected, it is not connected to source in any way. It's got to do everything on its own and all of that kind of stuff. So how do we know when we are in the ego? Yeah, how do we know that? Usually when we're doing any kind of low vibrational thought patterns, it loves to hang on to things, and it's very narcissistic, the ego. It's all about itself, It's that part of you that competes and compares, that thinks you're not good enough, that goes into kind of defensive behavior. This is mine. Lack. The ego loves lack. So if you think about it, I always think of we have different pieces and parts of us, and the reason why we get stuck sometimes, the reason why we struggle to move forward, is we're stuck in this pattern of ego thinking. And ego thinking is really good at keeping us in confusion, keeping us attached to kind of old stories, because it's like, yay, job done when I'm doing that. I'm confused because you're not moving forward. You are, basically doing the same thing over and over again, probably trying to solve problems at the level at which they were created. And we know that that doesn't work. So it's a tricky thing. Yeah, it's a tricky thing, the ego. I've spent sort of 5 years with my coach figuring out my ego, learning how to help other people find their way out of the ego stuff. Many, many years ago, I was very thick in the ego, my story, eating disorder, very unhappy, very miserable. And the thing is that has changed. I am not that person anymore. I'm a completely different person, really, from what I was 10 years ago. So change is possible, but what most people are doing is they are listening to this voice, and the voice of the ego is very loud. So I always talk about the soul voice, the ego voice and the soul voice. Don't know why I always go this side and this side, but this is the ego voice. The ego voice speaks very loudly. You're not good enough. Why do you want to do that? I can't do this because of blah, blah, blah. They're doing better than me. I should be further along than I am now. I'm confused about this. I'm going to kick my ass. I'm going to have give myself a hard time. That's very, very loud. The soul voice is very quiet. And what most people are doing is they're walking around in this. Yeah. And I hear it in people all the time in the way that they make excuses. Yeah. Ego loves that because that's a way that, again, we don't move forward. Or there's self-talk. Watch what you say. Yeah. As a coach, I hear what people are saying about themselves. I'm like, do you know what you just said then? They're like, no. What did I say? It's unaware. It wants to keep you in this place of, not going anywhere really. So the journey to understanding the ego is recognizing these pieces and parts of you. It's not all of you. Yeah. And who is this voice anyway? Who is it? Why do we need to buy into that voice? What is it? Is it the be all and end all? That's what I always say to people, is like, who is this voice? Who is it anyway? Do you want to buy into that voice? Is it true? Yeah. In Byron Katie stuff, is that thought really true? So when you understand the ego, you no longer need to buy into its story. It loves to create a story as well. Yeah. This is part of, beliefs, stories, emotions are the things that are holding us back. It loves all of that stuff. But when you begin to recognize that piece, that part of you, and you no longer need to buy into it, then you've got freedom. Then you can begin to hear the soul voice and all of the wonderful things that wants you to create, and the wonderfulness that comes from that. But understanding this, it's probably never going to go away unless you become an enlightened being. So we learn to understand it, learn to manage it. Yeah. So that's briefly what the ego is about. It's tricky and it's sneaky, but you can master it for sure. You can.